So today I'm going to be talking about how to build a very basic spear, and the reason I like this is because I've done Kung Fu for a long time. I was at the same time studying anthropology in school and pursuing a degree in that. So wherever those two things mesh together, they're areas I find very interesting. And this right here is an implement that's used in a very large percentage of the world as a basic survival tool. And what you want to start with is some kind of a long sapling, and it should be longer than you think you're going to need. And you're going to carve your tip into the smaller end, so it's kind of like a pool cue. The idea there is I can maneuver it much more quickly at the tip if the weight is towards my hands. Also, there's going to be less material to have to pass through the target here, so that's going to be better if it's narrow. And the bigger around it is here, the better my grip's going to be because I have more surface area touching the shaft. So carved on the smaller end. After I do that, the next two steps are the ones that aren't so intuitive. The first one is scraping the tip. And the idea for this step is that you want to get the shaft part of it very smooth and where it's going to pass through, because if it has lots of splinters or things going this way, it's going to want to tend to catch and not slide through the way it should were it smoothed out. So for this one, what a lot of people intuitively want to do is start and then scrape towards the tip this way. And this is maybe okay if you're trying to sharpen it a little bit, but if I'm trying to scrape it so that it pierces better, I want to start at the tip and move this way. And the reason is that when I start at this side of it and I'm scraping it, I'm smoothing it out in the direction where it really needs to be smooth, which is on the forward part of the motion here. So as it passes through something, I want it to be nice and smooth here. On the pull out, it doesn't have to be quite as good because I'm not making use of momentum anymore. And also because sometimes you might have barbs or something if you're making a harpoon or a trident or something like that, for making sure you can catch and pin kind of a smaller animal when you're hunting. So once you've done this, the next part you're going to do is fire harden it. So over a fire, you're going to kind of roast the tip of your stick, and you don't want to light it on fire or like really blacken it, because that will actually make it weaker. But when you heat the cellulose in wood, it will actually heat and cool, and the structure will be different, and it becomes more solid. This technology is used to make spear tips and arrow tips, but it can also be used on things like making a post for a fence or something like that. I post it in the ground, and the side that's on the ground has been fire hardened. That's more of a measure to prevent rotting and that kind of thing, but it's a similar idea. So after I've done that, I fire harden it and I'm ready to go. And I've built two boxes kind of right on top of each other, kind of poorly taped to my dummy right here. And just for fun, we're going to be poking at it just to show the ease that something as simple as a big long stick with a wooden point can actually go through things very easily. I'll adjust this a little bit so you get a good view of it. So if I'm using two hands, it's very easy. And you'll see that each time I do this, it's passing through 3 layers, and I can get my fingers all the way inside. It's a very big around kind of a hole there. So it's very easy to do with this one. Granted, this is 3 pieces of cardboard. I could have picked something a little bit harder, but I got kind of lazy. The other way you might be using this is primarily in your left hand, because your right hand has a different weapon. And the strategy here is that I'm going to use this as my distancing and jabbing tool, and then once it gets past the range of the tip in this range of motion, it comes into this range of motion. Or alternatively, I can use this to pin something down, or in this kind of a grip, and using this one for the follow-up. So using the left to keep something away, and the right one to swing down and strike on the head and the neck with a stick or a machete or a big axe or whatever you happen to have. So now, just using the left hand, it should still be able to pierce these things pretty easily every time, leaving those nice big holes. And then if I kind of get it at an angle, we'll see if I can get it through here. See, now we're piercing through, this guy has several shirts on, and it's piercing through fabric as well after 4 layers of cardboard. So anyway, we'll see that this kind of a very simple weapon can actually be very effective, and that's why it's been used throughout history. One of the interesting things about this one is that in Yanomamo society in Brazil, one of the things that happens when violence escalates is it goes through several different stages where you start off just using the hands, and then you move on to a club, and from there it escalates all the way up to the point, right before there's actual warfare, it escalates up to the point of the spear. And this is because if you really study the spear around the world, it's one of the most effective weapons you'll find anywhere. For instance, in Japanese samurai, a lot of the wars were waged very much by spearmen, not so much by guys with swords, like you would imagine, because of samurai movies and that kind of thing. Or in Europe, the spear is also a very big weapon. The Swiss were known for their long halberds, which is like a spear with a meat cleaver attached to it and a hook on the back. And these formations were just known to cause all sorts of havoc. So the spear is a very kind of underrated weapon in my opinion. And it's good to try making one just for the hell of it, and it just kind of gets you back to your roots of being a human and doing the kind of things you would do in a very basic level, like building a spear. So anyway, spear. Try it out, it's kind of fun.